Now, just speaking of this whole sort of, political correct sort of thing and running down our history and changing our history, what was your take, and I don't know how much you've seen of what the ABC did last night when they were covering the coronation, where they had a whole panel of Republicans, Indigenous activists, Stan Grant, but I repeat myself, and running down the whole coronation as this terrible thing, Australian history as this terrible sort of colonial legacy that needs to be overturned. And do you think that King Charles, with some of his reputation for wokeness, might wind up having a few friends at the ABC before this is all over?
This was on the ABC last night.
Yeah.
It sounds quite unusual that they would be so...
I know. I don't mean to shock you there on a Sunday morning, Alex.
I'm actually quite alarmed by that. Yeah, what a shock. I didn't watch it because mainly the ABC, I managed to rip that button off my remote control at home, so I'm now without a 2 on the button. So but, I didn't watch it. I got to tell you, it's a bit awkward, but I didn't watch it. Obviously, I didn't watch the ABC's version, but I can pretty well imagine how it rolled out by that kind of description. And look, once again, this is just an exercise the left have of trying to denigrate our history. Our history lies with the monarchy. I'm a constitutional monarchist. I've been someone who, does, I think, probably raise an eyebrow occasionally at some of King Charles's views on climate change and so on and so forth. And I think he'd do very well to avoid that now, to go into the mould that his mother had, which was just stay apolitical. And, that then protected the monarchy, which has been such a protection from some of these leftist forces in the country. If ever you want to look at a time where a republic is a bad idea, I mean, it was a bad idea in the late 90s, but imagine a Republican movement now with the almost total control that the left has on all of our institutions, the corporations, the media, every single department in the world. We would end up with basically a Venezuelan-style model of a republic if they have one. And so, look, I think the reality here is I really hope that, the Charles-led monarchy can continue to do the work his mother did, because more than ever, we need that constitutional monarchy to stay strong and robust in this country.
Absolutely. A couple of things, Alex, before we go. You said you can imagine what the ABC was like. Actually, it's way worse than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Because I thought the same thing, and when I watched it, I was just horrified. Genocide and extermination wars and all sorts of stuff. But just very quickly, your colleague... Senator Lydia Thorpe, great article by Janet Albertson in The Australian where she says what we've been saying on this show. Yes, let's hear more of Lydia Thorpe, because she actually tells us what the left are really thinking. We hear she was celebrating the... we've got a photo of her celebrating the coronation. She's dressed herself up as some kind of there she is, Indigenous queen or something. A bit of satire, a bit of fun. That's all well and good. But she does. There you go. There's what your republic looks like.
I like her earrings.
Right there. Right there. Your republic with an Indigenous queen, and away we go. But the great thing about Lydia, I do tell her when you bump into her next in the corridors, we here applaud her on the show, and she has an open invitation to come on this show anytime, because her views are fantastic, because at least she tells it as she sees it, Alex.
Yeah, look, no doubt about it. I mean, if we were starting a list of people that I dislike in that building, she would be nowhere near the top, I can tell you. I actually have to say, and this is quite controversial, but I think that's... I don't agree with anything she says, but almost anything, but I agree with you. I think that's the kind of... we don't want to be throwing ourselves in front of buses at Mardi Gras. I might try it myself next year, but I don't rule it out. But I don't think we should be doing that as a general rule. But ultimately, this is the point I'm making, is that the left of politics, that's the activist class at work there. She gets the headlines. She gets her message across. And, sometimes I reckon Conservatives have got to do a bit more gutter fighting. Conservatives in this country, across the country, are a little bit like the mounted cavalry rolling into battle at the moment and getting mowed down by, multiple launch rocket systems of the left. I mean, it's all well and good to be prim and proper and correct and polite, and we all need to maintain our standards. But sometimes you've got to fire a shot.
Well, they do fire a shot, Alex, but it's often at their own, as the Victorian Liberals. I mean, the only time we've seen any fight from the Victorian Liberals is when they're attacking conservative women, who are now being called terrorists.
Yes.
And now they're having another shot at getting rid of Moira Deeming. How do you see what's happening in Victoria? I mean, South Australia's got its own issues, but you must look at Victoria and just laugh.
Just quickly, Alex, 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay. I don't like to get involved in other divisions, I must say, but I am struggling to understand what Moira has done wrong, I have to say. I thought the whole point of having women in Parliament was standing for women's issues, which is exactly what she's done. So I can't see what the problem is myself.
Alex Antic, that was 15 seconds. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kate. Always great to have you on the show on Outsiders.